What's good, YouTube, and welcome to the house. Had an amazing Valentine's Day thanks to my wonderful fiance who's sitting over here, and we went to the aquarium, we had fun, but now I finally get to sit down with you guys and read the Brandish Maidens and some of their cards. Apparently it's like the Dark Saviors. Let's read some of these, and this is the first one I actually read, and it makes me think these are surprisingly generic and you can end up with setups. Let me explain after I talk about this first card here. We have Brandish Mecha Eagle Booster, a quick play spell. If you control no monsters in your main monster zone, target one face-up monster on the field. Until the end of this turn, that target is unaffected by card effects except its own. Also, if there are 3 or more spell cards in your graveyard, it cannot be destroyed by battle until the end of this turn. So when I say extremely generic, you might find use for this card in decks that use something like Fairy Tale Snow. You could actually banish monsters out of your main monster zone as Kashi hasn't come to the field yet, and now the activation requirements for this are met. You can chain it, and so like let's say something else was Chain Link 1, Fairy Tale Snow Chain Link 2, you activate this and then everything is safe. Or more so in decks that are centered around a boss monster that you need to protect, this could be pretty nice for them too. That's just my initial thoughts on the deck upon reading this card. I also got to see this article. I saw that there's only 3 monsters so far, and I grazed through, and I saw that there's hints at future monsters, and we'll talk about that too here in a second. There's a ton of cards released all at once. Brandish Maiden Ray is our first monster here. Dark Warrior effect. Level 4, 1500, 1500. You can only use this card's first and second effects once per turn each, hard once per turns. The first one's a quick effect. You contribute this card, special summon a Brandish Maiden monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone. So you could like attack, and then after that, tag out and attack again. That's pretty cool. While this card is in your graveyard, if a face-up Brandish Maiden Link monster you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, or is destroyed by battle, you can special summon this card. So if any of them have ram potential, that's pretty huge. And you'll be able to recur this after already having sent it off to summon the Link monster to the field. That's pretty well synergized, pretty awesome overall. We've got Brandish Maiden Shizuku. A water machine, Link effect, Link 1, 1500, and it has top and right. Interesting. These actually have diagonal upward posting arrows. Nice. Is that not the first time we have seen that? That's pretty cool. We have, she's any Brandish Maiden monster except a water monster. This is where I'm saying that new ones are teased, because our current only one is a dark besides herself, which is a water. So maybe it's preventing her from going into herself and we'll only have the original Brandish Maiden Ray, but I don't know. Maybe it's just preventative of it going into itself. We'll see in the future what is made, because we only have one monster, then tons and tons of support for her. It's crazy. It's almost like a main character of an anime. So monsters your opponent controls lose 100 attack and defense for each spell card in your graveyard. Then once per turn during the end phase, if this card was special summoned during this turn, notice that's not Link summon, so when Ray uses her effect to bring it out, it will get this. You can add a Brandish spell card from your deck to your hand that does not share a name with a card in your graveyard. So controlling what's in your graveyard will be important, but you still want to stack the spells, because almost all the spells get an additional effect once you've gone ahead and gotten 3 spells in your graveyard. Then we have Brandish Maiden Kagari, a fire link effect with a top left 1500, and it's any Brandish Maiden monster except the fire monster, so again cannot go into itself, but I guess it could just go straight up into the water one as well. You can only special summon this once per turn, so similar to the other one's restriction. If this card is special summoned, you can target one Brandish spell card in your graveyard, add it to your hand. Nice. This card gains 100 attack for each spell card in your graveyard. So that kind of mirrors this in terms of what it will do, but I guess for attacking direct, even better. Let's get into spells, because there's a lot of them. But that, like I said, this other one kind of proves some of them will have perhaps playability in other decks. So we have Brandish Skill Afterburner, a spell normal. If there are no monsters in your main monster zone, target one face-up monster on the field, destroy it. Then if there are 3 or more spell cards in your graveyard, you can destroy a spell and trap card on the field instead. So it gives a reward for extra spell and traps, and that seems to go with a lot of these. We have Brandish Startup Engage, a spell normal. If there is no monster in your main monster zone, add 1 Brandish card from your deck to your hand except Brandish Startup Engage. Then if there are 3 or more spell cards, you draw a card. Woo, that is nice. I'm also not reading any hard once per turns or once per turn effects on these, so it seems like you could just use this over and over. Really nice, solid searcher card if you're drawing it, and the more cards in the graveyard, the better it is. But this straight up is a 1-for-1 to start, and it's pretty cool. But it can't search itself, so it's not like you can just use it to stack them up in the graveyard. Let's see. Maybe Toon Table of Contents will be used in this deck. We've got Brandish Mech Shark Cannon, a quick play spell. We've got a pair of quick play spells here. If there are no monsters in your main monster zone, target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it. So that's really good for a quick effect, kind of a DD Crow-like effect. If there are 3 or more spell cards in your graveyard, you can special summon it to your field instead of banishing, but it cannot attack. Link material, that's pretty good. You're able to not attack with it, so you could go for effect monsters, but overall, I think this has really good dual ability, but it's some of these are rough, right? To get to where you want them to go, it's rough. Brandish Mecha Widow Anchor, spell quick play. If there is no monster in your main monster zone, target 1 effect monster on the field. Negate that monster's effects till the end of this turn. Then if there are 3 or more spell cards in your graveyard, you can take control of that monster till the end phase. Pretty darn nice. A lot of these still rely on your opponent having monsters though, but this seems to be playing break this board pretty well so far. Like, it needs more monsters though. That's what I'm feeling. Like, these Link monsters specifically require a Brandish Maiden monster, and then we only have 1. It's gonna be a rough ride if you're trying to play them as the Brandish Maidens themselves. Alright, we've got Mecha Hornet Bit, a quick play spell. If there's no monster in the main monster zone, special summon a Brandish Maiden token in defense position. It cannot be tributed at all. If there are 3 or more spell cards in your graveyard, that token's attack and defense become 1,500 each. I guess you can link summon with it. Brandish Skill Jamming Wave, spell normal. If there's no monster in your main monster zone, target a spell or trap card on the field, destroy it. Then, if there are 3 or more spell cards in your graveyard, you can destroy a monster on the field. So it's kind of the reverse of that first one, and it is a normal spell as well. So it guarantees that you can take care of a spell and trap card, and then it takes care of a monster. It's kind of funny that you have a reverse of a different card so soon. The skill Afterburner, where you target a monster and then you take care of a spell and trap. That's kind of funny. And then we have let's see here. That was this one. So we have the final 2 cards. Wow, there's just so many. We have Brandish Area Zone, a field spell. I haven't read this. I'm pretty excited to read this. You can only use this card's first and second effects once per turn each, so hard ones per turns, and those are its only effects. You can target 1 other card you control, excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and you can add 1 excavated Brandish card to your hand, shuffle the other cards to the deck. If a Brandish card or cards was excavated, send that target to the graveyard. So you have to sacrifice a card in order to pull this off. If this card is sent from the field zone to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon 1 Brandish Maiden monster from your deck. Alright, so like, I guess you could, is it possible that you could target, no, you have to target another card you control, so you can't target itself and get this effect. It's a pretty rough card so far. Tell me if there's something already out with this card where people have decided how to combo with it, but that's a rough card. So far, this archetype seems more like a engine you might want to splash, and then cards you might want to generically consider using, depending on the deck you run. Like, if you use a lot of spells, grass decks could easily tech some of these, I feel like. So we have Brandish Mechanism Multi-Roll. Spell continuous. Once per turn, you can target 1 other card you control. Send that target to the graveyard. Also, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to your spell activations until the end of the turn. That's pretty powerful. Once per turn during the end phase, you can set a number of Brandish spell cards with different names from your graveyard to your field up to the number of Brandish spell cards you activated during this turn while this card was face up, but banish them if they leave the field. That is interesting. Because a lot of them are quick plays, right? That's pretty darn good of a resource tool, especially for later game. Very centric to its archetype. Overall, I'm feeling this more as an engine, but like we already have better engines, I feel, like the Invoke. But it is really cool, and I think there's a lot of potential, especially cards like this. You have the generic cards that will access other decks that don't necessarily rely on the Brandish name, and I think that's the more exciting aspect of this. Thanks for watching, guys.